How you doing, Simon?
Good yourself.
Good, thank you. Thanks for
Excellent.
oh, sorry.
No worries at all. Do you want me portrait or landscape, or you don't care?
Whatever suits you, man. No stress at all.
All right.
Uh,
As long as you can hear me okay and you can see me okay, then whatever
yeah,
suits. Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
it's all good from this
Cool.
angle.
Yeah. Excellent.
But thank you for taking the time to have a chat with me tonight. It's appreciated.
Absolute pleasure.
No, so I'll kick straight into it. So, Sins of the Fathers out now. So, how
Yeah.
does it feel 4 years on from Never Enough Snuff, and it's album number 4 for you guys.
It is. Yeah. I know. For a band that's been around like as long as we have, you'd like to think we'd have more.
Quite a few years. But how's it
Yeah.
feel
I
having number
know.
4 out?
Yeah. I know. But hey, it's we like to do things slowly.
It's quality, not quantity.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, look, good, really good to finally have it out. I reckon this one feels like it's been the longest birthing of an album, out of any of the other albums, because I mean, Matt predominantly wrote it during lockdown, so we've actually been listening to it for like 3 years. So, you know, guitars and drums were done in like in 2021.
Yeah,
So
right.
yeah, but so it's been a very, very long time coming. And even then when we had like all of the bits and pieces together, like we gave it across to Hammerheart, and they were like, yeah, we'll schedule it for October. And this is in like January or something, and we're like, oh, fuck, really?
Another
All
10.
right. So yeah, it's from its very first inception to actually finally coming out just recently, it's been a really long ride. But yeah, um as my partner always likes to pull me up on, short story long. Yeah, it feels really good to finally have it out.
Those stories work perfectly for an interview, man. So I appreciate that.
Excellent. Because I'm really good at them.
Likewise. So is that with, taking that whole time to write this album, is that generally how you would go about it, or is this album done a little differently just because of COVID times? Like
Um,
it started around then?
Yeah, no, it wouldn't generally take this long. It was look, to be honest, Matt wrote it. We went back to Tim, who's of course no longer in the band after 30 years. And Matt's like, look, I've written an album, contribute as much or as little as you want, whatever. This is what's happening. So we waited about a year. Nothing really came. And then we said, okay, well, we're just going to run with Matt's songs. Can you record your guitars? We waited another 6 months plus. Nothing really came. And yeah, it was a bit of a frustrating time, but yeah, we found out the long and hard way that his heart wasn't really in it anymore. So we're like, right, this is either pull the pin on the whole thing or we'll soldier on without. So luckily we decided to soldier on without, and here we are with Sins of the Fathers. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, I would like to think if we get around to doing another one, that the entire process would be a hell of a lot faster.
Yeah. And so with
Yeah.
Tim stepping out and Joe coming in, now you've got two
Yeah.
Haleys in the band. Um
Yeah.
how did he add, like, was the recording or writing process already done by the time that he stepped in, or did he have a chance to?
Yeah. Like we everything was already farmed and shipped
Ah,
off to Hammerheart before Joe came in. I mean, Joe engineered and mastered the album, so it's
oh
not like
wow.
he's not involved in the album. He's
But he
definitely got his own touch in there, but he
yeah.
didn't actually play guitar on it. Like Matt did, like all the guitars and solos and everything was all him. So
Yeah,
yep.
wow. Whereabouts was it recorded? Or
All over the shop. That was
yeah.
another interesting thing from, like being an old fart, recording back in the old days on tape. And to doing everything digitally now. Like I remember, like right back at the start of the very early days of like even as Archron prior to changing to Abramelin,
Yeah.
it was the way that we recorded back then to now is like so different. Um, but yeah, now it's just like it was recorded everywhere. Like Matt did his guitars at home. Um, Dave did the drums with Joe down in Tassie.
Yep.
Rob just did his bass at home and sent the files across. Both Matt and Rob sent their files across, and then we sent them to Toyland Studios for when we
Yep.
recorded the self-titled album, and they
Yep.
got reamped and got the tones
Yeah.
they
Wow.
wanted and everything there. And then vocals I did over at Beveridge Road Studios in just outside of Melbourne, over in Sylvan, with Mark over there. Who's I did the vocals for Never Enough Snuff there as well, and he was such an absolute pleasure to work with. So
Yeah.
yeah, given the opportunity, I went straight back across to him. So yeah, very different. So all of the everything done wherever, whenever, and then
Yeah.
all the pieces of the puzzle, straight over to Joe, and then he just like slap. I'm not going to say slaps it all together. It's far more complex than that. He pulls everything together with like really finely,
Yeah.
and and works his magic, and then he'd send it over and go, what do you think of this, what do you think of that sound, how's this, how's that, and we would all listen to it and come back with our feedback, and hopefully weren't too annoying. I think we only made it like about 3 rounds of changes, and then it was
You're right.
yeah, pretty tough with it. So yeah, once we got to that part, it was actually pretty fast.
Yeah. Nice. Do you have a favorite
Yeah,
track off the album?
a favorite track.
Yeah. Either that
They've
was
been
written or
changing over
recorded.
time. I've been listening to it for like quite some time now, and I've heard it like fucking heaps. So I suppose like earlier on, it was probably like Sins of the Father and Last Right were probably
Yep.
my two faves off the album. But now I'd probably going to go with something lesser heard, like You Bleed I Feed, which is like
Yep.
the last track on the album. I
It's a
think
great ender, by the way.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, and I hadn't done a vampire song before. I like to try and like pick something different from the horror genre at all times. And yeah, I don't know why I hadn't got around to doing a vampire song, so that was my little homage to the vamps.
Yeah, at the moment, I can't stop listening to Sins of the Father and Deceased Estate.
Yeah,
I
awesome.
know, just the start of Deceased Estate's just got me. It's so catchy. I love it.
Yeah, cheers. Deceased Estate is like a sort of a follow up to Humble Abode.
Yep.
Like Conflagration of the Dreamers is a follow up to Flesh Furnace from Dead Speak.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So do you have so I guess, on the back of that, are you keen to playing any of the like any one of those in particular live? Have you had a chance to well, you haven't gigged since
Yeah,
release
the
yet?
first three we're doing live at the moment. So we just
Yep.
did well we did Conflagration and Sins of the Father in Adelaide.
Oh,
And then when
nice.
we played Canberra we added Gory Hole.
Yep.
So yeah, those first three tracks will be
Brilliant song title. So good.
We're- funny story. We were at rehearsals and we were just talking about glory holes as you do.
Yeah.
And I just came out with the gory hole and I'm like, fuck, good name for a song. And I raced home from rehearsals that night and just went bang, 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 and just wrote the song straight out, no changes. So
Brilliant.
yeah, that was
That's so good.
anyway, that's how that came about. Yeah, so anyway, we're doing those first three tracks because that's what we've rehearsed so far, and
Yeah.
that we'll be doing them on the Pestilence tour. But
Yep.
for latter stuff, I know we want to get down to Hobart again, and I want to get back to Adelaide at some point again soon too. Because last time we were there was for a festival, so we'll probably
Yep.
pull one of those out and then chuck another track in at some stage. And
Cool.
fucked if I know what that'll be at this stage.
So I know you guys are jumping on the Pestilence tour soon. Is there going to be an album tour like specifically for Abramelin for this?
Um, like this, it was going to be around this time. It was
Yeah.
always going to be around this time. And then the whole pestilence thing came up, and then we're like, threw our hat in the ring and got it. Doesn't hurt that Dave works for Soundworks. And
Always good to know a guy.
so I do, yeah, so that came up, and it was just like, well, we're not really going to do the pestilence thing and then do like a separate actual album launch
Yeah.
right away. So technically the East Coast for major cities is the album launch
Yeah,
for Sins of the
yeah.
Father. But then yeah, the other sort of on the side shows will be album launch shows, I suppose. But yeah, look, not really to do a national tour as such to support it. I suppose under different circumstances, yeah, we would have.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, but it's just sort of convenient to piggyback off the back of this whole thing. So hopefully most of the people that want to see us will just, hopefully be wanting to see Pestilence as well.
Yeah, no, I'm hoping to come down and catch you guys in Melbourne.
Yeah, I mean, fuck, they've been around even longer than us. So And it's their
You know,
first time here, so it'd be definitely worth going along to see.
and
Yeah.
Alarm always good to watch too. So
Oh, yeah,
that's incredible.
fantastic. Yeah, but yeah. I mean, I remember they shared the stage with us in support on our when we released Dead Speak back in 2000. So
Yeah, no,
yeah,
another
known
band that's
those
been
guys for
around the
quite
scene for quite a while.
yeah, been around for quite some time as well. I know.
So I guess well, on the back of that, so Never Enough Snuff, there was what, a 20-year gap between Dead Speak and that.
Yeah,
So how, like, is there any memories from the Never Enough Snuff sort of release and touring of that? So you've had a bit of a shorter gap this time round. So
yeah, much.
so you got any memories from like touring that and releasing that one?
Um, I suppose with Snuff, like after having the like as you may or may not know, well, most people know we had that hiatus from
Yeah.
2002 to 2016. So where like nothing happened. And coming back and doing those first shows in at the start of 2017 was like yeah, was a pretty exciting time actually to be back and with a bit of a well refresher on lineup, having Matt back in the band, having Rob back in the band too, it was a great buzz. And then of course having Dave on drums was just like, just changed everything dramatically, or dramatically as the case could be. Um, so yeah, that whole relaunching of Abramelin after such a long break was a really good buzz anyway. So by the time it actually we got around to doing, yeah, fucking 20 years. I still can't bloody believe that. But anyway, sorry, getting around to doing Never Enough Snuff, which incidentally was the very first song that I wrote like lyrically, and when we got back together and the guys started working on new songs, and I thought, wow, if this anything ever becomes of this, and we ever do another album, I'm recreating a Snuff film for an album cover, and it's going to be called Never Enough Snuff. So that was spawned like really early on in the piece as well too. So but yeah, the once again the process I suppose was pretty similar to this time around as well
Yeah.
too, with everyone doing their own individual things everywhere else, and as I said, recording with vocals again out with Mark. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was a fun process, and do it. That was also the first time that we'd done the working with Lee, who did the special effects makeup, and working with the photographer and everything else
Yeah.
to get the what we did for Snuff, and then obviously turning that right up again with a full blown production for Sins of the Father, with a team of 8 people involved
Oh
in getting
wow.
the artwork together on this. Yeah, everything from like the guy who did all the prosthetics and special effects, um, right through. Then we had myself as art director, photographer, hair and makeup, actual makeup for all the special effects and everything else too. 2 actors, and then graphic design, post production as well too. So
Oh, that's intense.
yeah,
Yeah, the artwork for Season 5 is incredible.
yeah, thanks.
Uh,
It's fucking epic. I had a couple of people like post online and go, "Wow, who's the artist?" And this dude's like, "Oh, it's AI," and I jumped straight in. It's like, get fucked. It is not. I spent so much money and time on this thing. Here's heaps of pictures of us
I'll
creating
give
it. He's
you
like, oh,
AI.
sorry, man.
Yeah. No, so I didn't even, it was only just before, I think it was today, because I'd only seen on Spotify, it
Yeah,
had just the female on the front.
that's
Like,
my daughter, by the way.
oh, there you go. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
she doesn't normally look like that. She's actually
Uh,
quite pretty.
yeah, that's like, so, like, following into the, a father's footsteps of being a horror fan, or had to take much to con her into to stepping into that?
No, she's definitely not following father's footsteps in the horror. My son is a bit more. He's like reading some of the early horror I started with, and is a bit more interested in the films. But no, my daughter's not into it at all. But I was just like, come on, opportunity to be on an album cover. It's pretty cool. Otherwise, we're going to
Yeah.
go with someone else. And at first, she was like, couldn't, because she still had last year she had year 12 exams.
Yeah.
But yeah, she had finished up that at the time that we actually because the shoot got postponed to start with, and I'd subbed someone else in. Pardon me. And then yeah, by the time we actually went to do it again, she was available, and she's like, "Yeah, I'll do it."
Yeah, that's unreal.
So
So
yeah,
yeah, I
I
didn't
know I was
realize there
wrapped.
was sort of two different artworks, and so only saw the one with the priest just
Oh
earlier.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's just so that's sorry, just a silly question, I guess, but So you're talking about prosthetics. So that album cover, that's all just him laid out to bare.
Yeah, if you get
Mhm.
an opportunity to see the vinyl, on the inside of the vinyl, there's a big we put in a big montage of like all of the making of, so people could
Oh,
see
that's
how much
cool.
effort we went to
Yeah,
get
that's
the thing done.
incredible.
So which I'll probably I'll wait for the vinyl to sort of like get out there a bit and everything else too, so fans can, enjoy it for those who purchase it. But for those who, because if you get the CD, you don't get all of that big,
Yeah,
montage of all the goodies and everything else too. So I will ultimately post it on social so people can
yeah,
have a look and see what we done. So I mean, I'm a massive fan of horror, as most people know, and have been like ever since I was a little kid. I've been collecting Fangoria magazine, the horror movie magazine, since like I think it was 1980. My dad bought me my first copy, which I think was issue number 3, and
oh
I
wow,
collected it for like fucking 25 years or something like that. And so always massively into like, horror special effects and behind the scenes of horror films and everything else too. So to have the opportunity to actually direct my own
yeah,
thing was yeah, pretty cool.
yeah, that's unreal.
People always say to me, "Well, why don't you do a horror film?" And like, I don't think I've got it in me to actually do a film, but to come up with an image and doing all the design and everything else for that. And it was a collaborative effort with the team as well too. Like everyone pitched in and did have their bits and pieces. And there were other covers that nearly came through. And Sal, who's from Head Rush Artworks, who's done like all of our album covers since the self-titled.
Yep.
She's done everything. So she got involved and spent like just a ridiculous amount of hours doing all the post-production. Like that's where it all really came to life. I mean, it looked unreal from the photos on the day, but when Sal got her hands on it, like pulled everything apart and ripped it all
Yeah,
up and pieced everything back in together, and then like lay it up like just fucking ridiculous amount of hours of special effects on top. Then it was like that's when it really shined. Yeah,
incredible.
she did an amazing job.
So
Yeah.
can we expect you to be directing an Abramelin video clip sometime soon?
Well, you know what? Ideally, we would have done that on the day, but because like we were at a photography studio and it was very very hands on to try and like I think we spent like six hours or something on the shoot just
Yeah,
to
wow.
just to get those images ready, and they're not even what we had and what we worked with and what we ended up with. Of course, is like quite different, but like there was I don't know there was something like 450 shots on the day or something like that. Like it was such a long day
I was going
to
to say,
then drag the guys in there and then try and work out a video shoot around that as well too. While we had all the special effects and everything going, it was too much. So, and then we had planned to do a video clip for the Gory Hole about it's probably about 2 or 3 weeks before the album came out. But yeah, it's one of the guys had a family emergency, and then we had to pull a pin on that, and then we just
yeah,
it's just everyone's been so busy doing their own shit in the meantime. We haven't had a chance to get back together and do something. So I think we will eventually and try and do something for this album, but it's just when everyone's like super busy and trying to get us all together at the one place at the one time to do something is. Oh, we got one of us doesn't even live in the same state anymore, so there's always that.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
but anyway,
I'd
we'll,
be
we'll work
keen.
something out at some point.
I'd be keen to see what you come up with. Being
Yeah, me
influenced
too.
by what you do, like well, what you're interested. And
Yeah.
even just the artwork for the albums, like that's incredible. So given what you have there, and then the
Yeah.
ideas flowing from that, it's gonna be
Mm.
one hell of a film clip.
Yeah,
Um,
it'd be pretty wild. Yeah, I would like to come up with something that we'd at least be able to release somewhere without it getting banned everywhere. So
well, yeah,
there's
that's your next problem,
that
hey.
issue as well.
Because from doing a little bit of research, I think it was your first album that you had a bit of release problems, like with
Yeah, I
lyrics
think.
or artwork.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, but as far as I know, we're the only Aussie band to have our shit banned. Um, there may be others, but it was around. I remember because I used to work in the industry for quite a number of years, different record companies, and I remember all the way back then, like we had a bunch of albums that got pulled off the shelves. It was like Dismember and a couple of Cannibal Corpse albums and Pungent Stench Being Caught Buttering, and there was maybe fuck, what was the other one? It doesn't matter. Anyway, there was a bunch of albums back then, and ours got pulled out too because of lyrical content on the self-titled. So we had
Oh,
to
wow.
re-release that with the Transgression from Archon EP as with no lyrics to appease the classification board back in the day. So
Yeah,
yeah,
wow.
no stranger to being censored. But yeah, I mean, it's actually not as bad these days. I reckon you can just release anything now, and no one really gives a shit.
And
It's
you've got your like I find that even horror versus your R&B with their like sort of sexualized content,
oh yeah,
where's the who's the you got to pick your sin, really. Is
yeah,
it horror
exactly.
or
Yeah, I'd like to think ours is more fantasy based,
and that's
as opposed
exactly
to
right.
like yeah, realistic sort of misogynistic
Mm.
fucking.
So it's
Anyway, I want to
how
get back
you
into it.
getting you banned versus them like
Yeah,
it's a bit ridiculous.
I suppose someone's always going to find whatever it is offensive, whether it's a graphic bloody image or if it's fucking you know women being exploited or
Yeah,
whatever it is. Someone's going to have
exactly.
a bitch and a moan about it. So
Well, that's
yeah,
it. And I guess, as you sort of said, you've been around the scene for quite some time. Um,
couple
is
of
there
years.
anything sort of, is there anything, anyone current do you sort of, do you keep up with the current Aussie metal scene at all? Or,
Not really. Like I'm
anyone you,
always like very like whenever we play, like I always love watching the bands that we're playing alongside. And I've seen some absolute crackers, over the last since we've been back. But
Hmm.
I'm shit house at keeping up with it. When I'm like listening to music at home, it probably is a bit more old school. Um, so yeah, not no,
No,
no insofar as actually keeping up. No,
no,
I'm pretty
that's
bit shit.
fair. And I mean,
Yeah.
and, seeing that you've still been in the scene, you're still making albums 30 years later. Is there any sort of advice you give for newer bands in the scene,
Don't
especially
leave
in
20 years
Australia?
in between albums.
Well, that's probably fair.
That's the best advice I can give. Um, I- Actually, I had one that popped up in an interview recently. It was about like bands having a crack at it themselves versus going like with a record company.
Yeah.
Um, and and I thought that was actually like a pretty cool question. So if I don't mind, sort of expanding on that particular question, it was
Mhm.
for newer bands and everything. I would actually side with a label that can support you and help you through. I mean, when we released Never Enough Snuff, we self-released that. I mean, we got uh Hammerheart, what was actually a sub-label of Hammerheart called Petrichor, was doing the release for us in the world outside of Australia. So they helped us over there. But I mean, for us to go and like go, well, okay, who do I send my album to at like what media? Or how do I organize interviews? Or how do I, whatever else it is too, It's just, what a fucking nightmare. Like, there's no way you can find out that information, Or if you did, it'd just, you'd end up spending like a buttload on mail to send it out to these companies who probably get so much mail every day and would just go whatever, as opposed to if it's coming from a label. So,
Hmm.
and I'd even say that domestically too, like jumping on board with a label. I don't own a label, by the way. I'm not trying to market anything
Come
here.
on, man. I'm in a couple of bands.
you know but it's like, yeah, what they can actually do for you, they've already done the legwork in having the the contacts at media and know who to send it out to, and can, I've got better rates on advertising that you're going to be able to get just by rocking up to wherever. And it's, yeah, there's so many pluses. It's like, yeah, your clip of the ticket mightn't be as big because they're, taking whatever, and you're getting a cut, whether it be stock or an advance or whatever it might be too. But it would take so much of the headache away, so you can just focus on, like, doing your music and creative control on your artwork and
Yeah,
merch and
right.
all the other stuff that you do. Yeah,
I think you're the first person I've spoken to that's pro label.
yeah.
Most music to everyone, yeah, is usually the DIY
Plus, I
thing.
used
But
to work in industry too, and I know the amount of stuff we would do behind the
mm,
scenes to actually like work our artists. So it was yeah, it's massive, and I don't want to deal with that shit. Like, I've got a full-time job, kids, fucking everything else is like,
yeah,
oh, can you
that's
sit here
fair.
and like mail out those like 150 CDs, and can you? I mean, I know that most stuff goes out digital these days anyway, too, but like,
But yeah,
trying to find all of those contacts and everything else too, like, fuck that. Just get someone else to do it for you.
yeah, no, that's completely fair. And look, that's probably good advice because that is probably, being in a local scene myself, it's, where do you go to from playing your local pubs or, your distribution, things like that. It's
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. And I guess just one last question for you.
Yeah.
Just to sort of wrap it up, it's a bit more of a funner one, but seeing as you're a horror fan, how do you, I'd imagine you'd have a pretty good idea on the do's and don'ts of surviving your typical slasher, horror movie. How do you
Eh,
think you fare in, being one of the teens that are running from the killer? Do you reckon, you got a plan involved? Is there a method to the madness? Would you trip on that
I reckon,
one of the first one did?
yeah, I'd start by spraining my ankle. I would have a torch with sketchy batteries that I could bang a few times on my hand and try and get to work.
Yeah.
Um, oh, no, but as a middle-aged teenager,
Yes.
I would, I would, you know what I always say to my kids? Like we'll be watching a horror movie or something like that too, and they'll take out the bad guy, like they'll fucking knock him semi-unconscious or whatever like that too. And my number one rule to the kids was, you do not stop until he's fucking dismembered. Like you just
Yeah.
smack his head in until it's absolutely obliterated, remove his limbs, go
Exactly.
go to town on him, go to absolute town on him and make sure there's nothing left. And then you can safely walk away.
Yeah.
That's number
Like
one.
that's fair. Um, yeah, that's brilliant.
Apart from don't go in the basement or don't go in the attic ever.
Rule two. See,
Just leave.
release a book with the next Abramelin album of how to survive. You know,
Yeah. A little a how to.
yeah,
Yeah.
concept
Survive horror
album.
for dummies.
Yeah, exactly. Writes itself. But no, thank you
Yeah.
very much for taking the time to
No
chat
worries.
tonight, about the album and the gigs. It's greatly appreciated, and I'm hopefully going to be able to catch the Max Watts show in November.
Excellent. Please come up and tap me on the shoulder and we'll have a beer.
Oh, that'd be unreal. But appreciate it.
Brilliant.
Enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mitch. Cheers.
Pleasure.